So you want to make jewelry. Maybe you want to sell it, or maybe you want to give some to your wife and convince her that spending a lot of time in your garage is actually a good thing for your marriage. Who knows? There are a million ways to make jewelry, and lost resin investment casting is a great way to do it. I've done some of it here on YouTube, but this is the first time I've actually used a printer designed specifically for this. It's got a couple of tricks up its sleeve, but my favorite one was a bit surprising, but it makes all the difference. We'll get to that in a minute. This is a Nova3d Gem3 Resin printer. They say it's designed specifically for jewelry. It's got gem in the name. Funny enough, the gems are the part that this doesn't print. They say it's designed to print wax casting resins and other resins designed for burnout, for investment casting. I've done a number of videos on lost resin investment casting, but let's recap a little. The printer prints a piece of jewelry, like this ring for example, from a digital file. But it does not print metal. It prints a pattern that can be put through a traditional lost wax casting process. Some of these resins are actually made of wax, like this one, X-Wax. Wax is in the name. Some of them aren't, but they're all designed to burn away cleanly and not leave any ash behind. Because of that special feature, these are a little more difficult to print than normal resin. You can attach all these wax prints to a wax tree, cover it in investment plaster, burn out the wax in a burnout oven, you pour in some metal. I use a vacuum casting machine. This one here. People also use spin casters, the centrifugal ones. I do not have one of those. Some people don't use either of those, but if you want the best detail, you need something to force the metal in and pull the air out. Both vacuum and centrifugal work fine. I only use vacuum, personally. Lots of jewelry is made this way, and a lot of jewelers today are using resin printers like this for this process because you can print a whole bunch of patterns all at once in rapid succession. This differs from normal resin printing in that your print is not the finished product. It is designed to be destroyed by the process. It comes off the printer as a resin, a wax resin, and it ends up in gold or silver, or in my case, bronze, because I'm not made of money. Okay, so how does the Gem3 fit into that? For what I can tell, it has three key features that make it better for investment casting resins, especially in this price range. First up, it's built pretty tough. I struggled to find any plastic at all in this machine, other than the clear lid and this touchscreen front thing. Everything else is metal, and it's very, very sturdy. Even this back shell is metal. It's not a big printer, but it is shockingly heavy. It's one of the heaviest ones I've ever picked up. This whole build plate is made out of metal. The whole securing system here is metal. It's very thick. I guarantee you it's not gonna warp. It's pretty tough, and I had no trouble with this wax resin sticking to it. The surface of the build plate looks like a rough cut with like a fly cutter on a milling machine or something. I would be very disappointed if I had this surface finish on a cylinder head, but on this, it's perfect. It gives the grooves for the resin to stick to. Number two, what about the screen? It's not very big, we'll get to the size later, but this is the best resolution of any screen I have ever used on a resin printer. It has square pixels, none of those weird rectangle things, at 17 microns square. That means in both dimensions, it is smaller than any dimension pixel on any resin printer I've seen or used. That also puts it significantly ahead of other more industrial machines that I've tried that have a resin, like a casting resin designed for those machines. I've tried two other industrial machines that have a casting resin. One had 40 micron pixels, one had 50 micron pixels, 17. I've long said that resin printers have exceeded my eyesight in terms of how good the resolution is, and this exceeds all of those that I was talking about. That's kind of important with investment casting resins because they tend to have longer exposure times and you can get a little more bloom effect. And in this case, a lot of those effects, layer lines and everything, do actually make it all the way through the investment casting process. And with casting in general, you will never get a better casting than the pattern you started with. So start with the best pattern that'll give you the best chance. Here's a close-up of some filigree rings I printed. Some of these details look barely thicker than hair, and yet the print came out perfect. I have no idea how you would achieve this with traditional methods in wax. I was able to print it easily. Several, actually. I'll try to get zoomed in shots so you can see how fine the details are on some of these. It actually looks better zoomed in than the naked eye. It's very impressive. You would have to heat the metal up quite a bit, and the flask temperature would have to be a little higher to make sure that the metal could fill in all these tiny, tiny details. Quick word on the resin I used for this. This is Blue Cast X-Wax. Wax is in the name. This is a special resin. I believe it has the highest wax percentage of any burnout resins. It says here over 80% real micro casting wax content. It prints very good. The details are excellent. I've already reviewed this recently, so I'm not going to go into ultra detail on it. It's extremely detailed, but it's very flexible. Most casting resins are very brittle, and this one is not, which is very impressive. Great for detail, Probably not as good for like really thick chunky stuff. I've had a little more failing and warping with this resin than with others, but it's still very impressive. Nova3d makes their own casting resins and their own slicer and all of that, but it's not actually a lockdown system. This comes out of the box just open. So I'm using someone else's resin, Blue Cast, and I use Chitubox, free version of Chitubox, and it all worked just fine. That does mean you're gonna have to dial in the resins yourself. You're gonna have to get the supports right and all that. Most printers, them included, have profiles for a lot of the main casting resins, but as with all this stuff, if it's open source, you're gonna have to work out some of the details yourself. It's not difficult though. You could probably even set this thing up for regular printing resins too, regular plastic ones. I don't know why you would do that, but I think you probably could, and the resolution would be great. Okay, without further stalling, what is my favorite feature of this? It's actually this right here. This little thing, that's a heater. There's a heater, there's a fan, it blows, it circulates the air in there. Heaters are nothing new for resin printers. I think pretty much all of them that I've gotten in the last year or two all have heaters built in. But this is a different kind of heater. I've had them where the vat heats up, I've had the screen heat up from below, I've had a mixer go back and forth and heat the resin. This just blows air into the chamber. Again, that isn't a new feature either. But what I really like about this one is you can turn it on here and set it for whatever temperature you want, up to 40 degrees Celsius, and just hit go. Now it's gonna heat up. I don't need it to heat my garage. I'm gonna turn it off. Up to 40 degrees Celsius. I've actually left it on accident for a couple of days, and it just diligently holds at 30 Celsius or whatever you set it at until you turn it off. That is very useful, I found, for this resin specifically, and probably other wax casting resins. If you have ever used this stuff, or if you've seen my review video on it, you'll know at room temperature or below, it's very much like wax, as in solid wax. You can't get it out of the bottle without heating it up quite a bit. I actually stuck this bottle inside the chamber, shut the lid, and turned it on 30 Celsius and left it in there to heat the bottle up, just so I could pour it out into the vat. You can't really do that on a normal resin printer. And to be honest, I don't think they intended that for this feature when they designed it, but that's what I used it for, and it's very nice, especially with this resin. I've tried preheat functions with other printers. They generally only go up to like 30 Celsius, and they don't work that well. This one, like I said, goes up to 40, and I think 30 on this is probably hotter than 30 on some of the others, because I was not able to get this wax to go liquid on some other printers with a preheat function. On this, no problem, and I didn't even have it cranked up all the way. This garage can get pretty cold. This is Wisconsin in the winter, and it's been a particularly cold one, and I've had no problems using this to print this resin. The fan is actually pretty quiet too. When this thing is running, I can't hear it. So this is probably one of the quietest resin printers I've had out here in ever. Okay, the positives sound great, but what about some drawbacks? First off, it is not fast, especially relative to a lot of the newer generation resin printers out there. The new ones just fly. This one does not. And generally, when I'm using investment casting resins, I slow down the other printers. This one, I didn't have to do any of that. The prints came out great to begin with. I think probably because it's not tearing the thing off the release film at full speed every time. I wonder if that's why I got such good detail and no like weird warping effects like I get sometimes on other printers. Also, it's not big. This is not a huge printer. The build volume, I got data here, 154 by 87 by 120 millimeter. So here's a shot of the build plate. I'm holding it up next to the build plate from an Elegoo Mars 5 Ultra. See, it's not a big printer. They do make a Gem3 Max, which is much larger, but I think this normal one's not that bad, especially for this kind of printing. On their own website, they say 6+ rings or 2 bracelets in one batch. They also give you a 30-minute per part time. Resin printers, you don't pump one out every 30 minutes. You print everything out all at once. So that's kind of a math trick. But I was able to fit way more than 6 on one build plate at a time. On one build plate, I was able to fit 6 fine filigree rings, 7 tulip rings, 2 wedding rings, size 7 and 8, 13 pairs of tulip earrings. I did lose one in the vat, that's fine. The one ring from Lord of the Rings, one necklace pendant worn by Lone Star in the movie Spaceballs, and one ring of the Schwartz, size to fit my hand. All on one build plate, and it wasn't even packed. I could have fit more on there. My wife likes tulips, by the way. That's why there's so much tulip stuff. The Spaceballs stuff, that's for me. I lost one tulip earring. It broke off the vat during printing. That's normal. One tulip earring out of a whole plate. And also the pendant loop at the top of this pendant, it broke off during washing. I threw it into the wash station, it broke off there. It printed fine though. So it's a smaller machine, but it can print faster than I cast stuff. So even the small one here is not the bottleneck in my process. And I suspect it won't be for any of you either, unless you are a professional jeweler, in which case, why are you listening to me? It's also not exceptionally cheap. It's very easy when you're shopping for resin printers to look at something like size and reported speed and price and think that's the whole picture, but you're gonna miss out on a lot of features like this heater that is just extremely useful for this application. It's very well thought out. And because you can use whatever resin you want, it's all open source, you might be able to save on resin and put that money towards investment plaster or metal or something like that. Okay, so who is this for? Do you want an all-round resin printer? This is probably not for you. Do you do investment casting and you especially make small, extremely highly detailed things? Well, then this is probably worth a look, especially if you want the flexibility to try a bunch of different printer resins out there. If you're interested in this printer, I'll leave a link down below in the description. You can go take a closer look. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about investment casting with a resin printer like this one, using a machine like this one, there's a link down below. Go check that out too. I'm building something that can help. It's not ready yet, but when it is, I'll let you know if you sign up for that list. I hope to see you there. Now go make something. See you next time.